Hello, we are Team Planet Saviors, and our idea is smart calculator for smart vehicles. But then, if you're wondering, there are many calculators available in the market already, and how different is our idea from them. Coming to this basics, in this era, it has become more important to have an emission report to the end user so that they can follow up, and it's like indirectly we're educating them on how emission the vehicles are causing and affecting the environment. And we can urge them to either make a shift to biodiesel, or what are the smallest steps they can do to control this value basically. To start off with the idea, we will have the user to make a basic selection. So the user would be able to select the market type and the product, the engine type, and basically when we just talk about automobiles or car, first we target on the market, and then we try to filter them based on the brand specific and the product specific vehicles and to the engine type. And based on the historical telematics data, what we have, we will calculate the emission and the fuel efficiency. And we are going to compare it with the base year statistics and give them a brief on how the driving is currently when compared to the base year, and what is the reason of such a fuel loss. And we are considering a small basic equation here: increase in fuel efficiency, decrease in CO2, so that he can set a target to himself and to achieve it by controlling his CO2 emissions. And then if you can just look at why basically we are talking about monitoring the CO2 emissions. There was this stats statement which I found. Like Europe has decided to cut off the CO2 emissions from the new heavy trucks with 15% by 2025 and 30% by 2030. So this means a gradual reduction of 3% in a year, at least per year they're considering, I mean, sort of a target. So the solution here will give an end user the complete brief on change in fuel efficiency and the impact on CO2 emitted from their vehicles. Along with this, the user can track on the fuel efficiency on, I mean, how he is performing when compared to the base year. And we have few data models here where we will give you the fuel efficiency in kilometer per liter in the form of percentages. Similarly, the CO2 tons per vehicle in percentages, and then CO2 tons per vehicle if in the base year, and how are you performing similarly in the current period selected. So the basic selection, if you would like to know, it could be an year selection, quarter selection, monthly selections, based on the data model you would come up with. And then the main methodology for deriving this required KPI is, see, 1 liter of biodiesel, 1 liter of diesel weighs 835 grams of 835 grams, and in this 835 grams it constitutes of 86.2 percentages of carbon, which makes it to 720 grams of carbon per every liter of diesel. And in order to compass this carbon to carbon dioxide, basically, we require 920 grams of oxygen. So when we sum up all this, 720 plus 1920, that is 2640 grams of CO2 per liter diesel is being emitted. So an average consumption, if we consider for 5 liter, I've just taken example of 5 liter, it is like 132 grams of CO2 per kilometer is being emitted. So here, if you can see the basic formula, what we have for fuel efficiency, the total distance by total fuel consumption. And the formula which we have derived is 2640 grams per liter of CO2 is being emitted with 1 liter of diesel. So similarly, we have come up with different KPIs for different standard units, like grams per liter, grams per kilometer, CO2 emission tons per kilometer, and distance driven kilometer per vehicle, and finally at the CO2 emission tons per vehicle. The basic correlation, as I was explaining, increase in fuel efficiency and decrease in CO2. Correlation means generally compare with two sets, and it has to lie between -1 and 1. And then if it is 0, then there is no relation. So it's like directly proportional, so there is no correlation. And if the correlation value is -0.75, I've just given an example here, it means fuel efficiency increases and CO2 decreases, whereas the distance is unchanged, it's not altered. Coming to the global reach and impact, we already have vehicles in the market in Europe which have Euro classes. For heavy duty vehicles and for trucks, there are different Euro classes available, and for every Euro class, there is a value available, for like constant emission value. Like this should be the value, more than that, it's considered as a emission, harmful emission. So there is an increase in the stringency of Euro standards. And then what we try to do here is we first calculate the vehicle population based on the product and the market distribution, and then we give the average distance the vehicles have driven in so and so years. And then finally we derive at this correlation of fuel efficiency versus CO2 tons per vehicle. And we will be adding the CO base year flag just to let the user know that when compared to base year, how are you performing, as I've already covered in the previous slides. So here are the basic filter parameters which I was talking about: market, brand, product, engine type, and then we get the filter data based on the customer selection. If you can see, 2017 is being added as a base year, and these are the average distance driven kilometer per vehicle by vehicles. I've just created a mock data set, and I've just considered Toyota as one of the customer, and these are different vehicles available. Just consider 3 vehicles, and what is the distance driven in the period of 2015 to 2021. So here, if you can see, it's a vehicle population, basically product and market distribution. And then if you can see change in fuel efficiency and impact on CO2, we have this 4 different parameters: CO2 tons per vehicle current year, base year, and fuel efficiency current kilometer per liter, and CO2 tons per vehicle. So we get a clear picture on how are we performing when compared to base year. If you can see, current year is the blue one and orange is the base year. So you're actually performing better than the base year. So if you can see, the graph has come down. Fuel efficiency versus emission for current year kilometer per liter and base year kilometer per liter. Here we are giving them fuel efficiency, CO2 tons per vehicle in the current year and CO2 tons per vehicle in the base year. You can consider that there is a basic no growth in the fuel efficiency, and how come we are having a gradual decrease. So every year there would be count of vehicles increasing. So we have to consider even the number of vehicles, the distance driven. Based on this, we have ended up with this correlation. And coming to the market strategy, we first need to set up the target process. It's like we have to target the market, brand, and propose a customer a specific data on fuel consumption and CO2 based on analysis of what our historical telematics data has. And then customer can monitor, basically the customer can monitor the daily operations, fuel, and driver behavior. So we have to trigger these key things in the customer, which would make a value proposition to him. It's like predictive maintenance. He can early detect the quality issues, which would increase his fuel efficiency and ultimately the reduction of CO2. Pricing strategy, we can make it as a dynamic pricing on usage pricing sort of. Coming to the channels, we have data viewing reports in the tools such as Power BI, Click, SAS, which doesn't come with huge cost and are user friendly. So a user can go for these tools at any point of time. Thank you. Hi, we are Team Planet Saviors, and our idea is Smart CO2 calculator for smart vehicles. But then, if you're wondering, there are many calculators already available in the market. How different is our idea from them? Basically, coming to the basics, in this era, it has become more important to have an emission report to end user so that he can follow up. It's like basically indirectly educating them on how much emission their vehicles are causing and affecting the environment. And we can urge them to either make a shift to biodiesel or what are the smallest steps they can do to control these values. Basic selection, what we are going to give them is the market selection, and then comes the brand, product, and finally the engine type value if they have it. Then we're going to fetch this view latest emission and fuel efficiency values from the historical telematics data, and then we're going to compare it with the base year statistics, and to give him an overview on to track the progress basically to achieve at a particular target. It's like base year was so much, and then in current year your performance is like this. Going ahead in 10 years, you would be here causing this much CO2 emission. So we're going to give him a brief on this. And the user can make based on this selection, the user would also will be able to view the fuel efficiency kilometer per liter in percentages along with the CO2 in the base year and the current year. The methodology what we have derived at this particular KPI is 1 liter of diesel generally weighs 835 grams. And this constitutes of major part of carbon dioxide, that is 86.2% of carbon, which makes a 722 grams of carbon per liter, and that requires 920 grams of oxygen for combustion to form CO2. So which is a huge amount, that's 2640 grams of CO2 per liter. And I've just taken an example of 5 liter, which is, if you can see, that's 132 grams of CO2 per kilometer. So you can just predict how much it is going to be on a daily basis and on an annual basis. And the basic correlation, as I was explaining, it's increase in fuel efficiency and decrease in CO2. So the basic, it lies between -1 and 1 to compare the basically two closed data sets. And as I was explaining, there's a customer selection parameters available. That's market, brand, product, and engine type. Based on the selections made, the data would get filtered. Then if you can see, this is the average distance driven per kilometer per vehicle, and 2017 as a base year, and 2020 is a current year. So if you can see what is the distance driven, 2021 we have data only for the quarter 1. I've just given some mock data, so that's why you can see less number of distance driven value. And this is the number of vehicles to the year values. So it's like basically the vehicle population product in the market distribution. And coming to change in fuel efficiency and impact on CO2, if you can see the way the CO2 emission is being actually decreasing when compared to the base year. If you add, that's because the fuel efficiency, the gray color graph, if you can see, that's the fuel efficiency, so it's increasing, and the value is getting decreased. And the fuel efficiency versus CO2 emission for current year and the base year, if you can see, there's a gradual decrease again in the CO2 transfer in the current year when compared to the base year. So that the user is actually performing good when compared to the base year. That was all my idea. Thank you so much.